second part of our convention. I noticed that there was one or two of you in the hospitality room. How did you enjoy that? It will be open again as soon as the program is over, so as soon as we can get down there, we'll open it up. At around 7, Jim, do you want to, what time do you want to?
Well, maybe a little earlier.
Right.
I'll tell them what we got to do.
Jim will let you know when you can see the auction glass. We'll have a midnight auction probably around 9 o'clock after everybody looks at the auction glass. There's one difference this year. We're going to only allow one piece per family. We don't want Jim to have to stay here 3 or 4 hours to get several pieces, try to get several pieces sold. So if you'll bear with us and just bring one per family, we'd appreciate that. Be sure and vote for your room display. There's a lot of nice displays this year. Go around to the rooms, get your ballots, mark them. The box is in the hospitality room. And we'd like to have a lot of votes. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jim. He's going to do the program for us.
Now is it on? Okay, great. We're going to talk today. If that, I did see a marigold one. Otherwise, the only colors I know of is blue. Do you know of any other colors, Ron? That's the only ones I know of. Very rare shape piece, big feet on it. I kind of got a feeling that maybe they thought maybe these feet might break off after a while or something. And they thought, let's give it up. While they were doing that, they decided that they'd go ahead and make a couple whimsies out of them. This here's what I call a centerpiece bowl. Basically, it's the exact same piece, and what they did is just flared it out and made a big ice cream shaped bowl out of it, okay? I call this a centerpiece bowl. I'll get to the orange tree bowl down here that's a centerpiece. And here's the same piece in green, which, by the way, has fabulous iridescence on it. And this is owned by Winnie, and very rare. I don't think I've ever seen these other than at their houses. That's about it. Does anybody else have any of these that they know of around here?
I had a panther like that.
Yeah, the panther does come in this. I've seen a few marigold panthers, and I think there's even one blue panther around. Yep. So very, very tough pieces to get. Where did I see the other one, Jerry? I told you I'd seen at the Hoga convention. The guy from Argentina, wasn't he?
Well, okay, 6 years ago, one from Argentina.
Okay, yeah. The guy from Argentina brought one of these. John, would you tell me that this is probably from that area?
I would think so.
I would think so. But this is just a big beetle. I would guess it's a paperweight, iridized heavily on the top. Like I say, this is one of a couple that I know of. You say there was one in Alaska too? I have one. You have one? Very, very rare piece. Very tough to get. And I think, I would say it come from Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. Okay?
They still make those, Jim, in California, but they're flat.
They're flat on the bottom. Yeah, that's a new one. The new ones, this is hollowed out in the bottom. The new ones are flat. What's that? Yeah, they're solid. Right. They're solid. And they're made in California, aren't they? Yeah, that's what I thought. Here's an eye cup, and it's got a flashed iridescence right around the top in a blue. Real unusual, kind of an oddity. Eye cups are collectible, flash glass collectible, so if you want to put these into the Carnival category, I would. A lot of people are collecting them now. Good little miniature. All right, Jerry, what's the pattern? Some number of imperial. I would guess this was probably a child's punch bowl. No? Okay, it's in the new imperial catalog, some number. I'm going to mention that thing you said to me about the half number. But cute little piece. Was it made in Carnival or not? It says probably not. Just crystal, okay, but here it's iridized. Something that was very unique that Jerry told me about after reading that book, he said that Okay, like the 474 pattern. If the 474 was sold at one price, and then they had a 474 and a half, which was a lesser quality glass, and they sold it at a lower price value. Okay, this was back when they were making it years ago. Okay, so if you see a half in the book and that's what you got, well, it's not really good quality. Okay. Here's a cute piece made by Dugan. It's the Daisy and Plume, flared out into an odd shape, banana boat shape, heavy peach opal. Look at how much opal's on that, and it's very heavy. Can you see that down there? How heavy that is? A neat piece. Don was telling us earlier, or Ron was, that he bought this from Emma Tilton for little to nothing years. And then one day he was at an auction of Tom Burns, and Tom says, "Hey, have anybody else ever seen one of these?" He says, "Yeah, I got one." So never say there's one. There's always plenty of them around, isn't there? These are whimsies. These are around. They're available. I don't know if they're this pretty normally, but a little Jack in the Pulpit, circle scroll hat shape. What they did is they took probably a tumbler, and they just grabbed one side and pulled it down, grabbed the other side and pulled it up. I've seen them where the two sides are up. That's probably a little rarer than this. I think that's probably the only other shape I've seen of that. And we can get to, yep, I'll get to it. It's right here, isn't it? They also did this with it. Same mold. And all they did is they swung the tumbler. They grabbed the tumbler and they swung it, and that's what they ended up with. Okay. Also very pretty iridescence. There's a few of these around. Some people would not consider a whimsy something that is seen very often. That is unless it's extreme, one of two or three known. But I still consider these whimsies because they had to take an original mold and change it. And to me, that's still a whimsy. Now, here's a question for the crowd. Is this a whimsy? How many say no? How many say yes? Just Todd back there. Just Todd back. You're right. It is not a whimsy. This was a production line piece. They made this. They specifically set out to make a spittoon in the inverted strawberry pattern. This is marked near cut. They are quite hard to get a hold of. Very tough. And this one's very pretty. Of course, all of you know that iridescence is the essence of Carnival glass, and that would really make this one a valuable one. There's green, marigold. Never seen an amethyst, though they did make amethyst inverted strawberries, so it's possible. Here again is I consider this a whimsy because it was made from a tumbler. This was a tumbler, a very rare tumbler in itself, the Grape Arbor tumbler. And what they did is they decided to crimp it and ruffle the top of it. Also here's the grape and cable tumbler made into a hat shape. And again, they're fairly scarce. They're kind of hard to find. This was a little more available than this is, but again, they are whimsies. Is $250, $300, maybe even a little more anymore. Yep. And put it into the whimsy, you can add a little more probably. This come from Elvis, I think, because he just bought this at one of my auctions. I have never seen it before, except for the time I sold it before, which Carl Tarkington bought it at that time. It's got a Christmas holly pattern around it. Elvis, you called me and said you found it in the Butler Brothers catalog, and it was made by who? By Northwood. Okay, now, I didn't know Northwood made this kind of glass, but it's very possible. He found it in the Butler Brothers book. I'd like to see that article, and but it's got a neat pattern to it. It's definitely iridized and Christmassy pattern, and very pretty. What in the world is this? What pattern is this? Elvis?
Oh, this is a miniature pop-up. John says do this as part of his deal. Interesting piece anyway.
It's
Yeah, I wrote about that.
it's holly and poinsettia is what it is. Yeah, that's a neat piece. I have never ever seen this before. I think I would consider it Dugan. It sure feels like, Dugan has a definite feel to it, It feels like Dugan to me. It looks like Dugan's marigold. I would consider this Dugan. It has kind of a berry floral pattern, like poinsettia's pattern to it. What's it smell like? A piece of glass, I guess. But if you didn't, you know, you got to take that guy and just get rid of him. Very unusual piece. I'd love to have this in an auction to see what that brings. Here's a really unique whimsy, made well, it was not made from this, but it was made from the Master Berry Bowl, I would say. Is that correct? All right. It's a butterfly and berry. I have seen other ones of these, but they always had a pattern inside too. This one's plain. For some reason, they didn't put the inside plunger. Notice, I don't know if you can see it from back there, but the feet don't touch. Okay, just the collar base touch. Kind of like Todd, yeah. He doesn't quite go all the way to the... Thanks, Swede. Somebody else pick on him, please. He always livens up a place, doesn't he? My mother still says he's the only person all I have to do is look at and I can giggle. So, here's a cute little whimsy. Feathered serpent, little tri-cornered shape. Probably made from the little berry bowl, and they just flattened it out and made it tri-corner shape. The Whitleys own a spittoon in this. Am I correct? Okay. Also, I've seen a four-sided piece of this, and they made other whimsies out of this piece. Can you think of any others, John? Basically, what I saw was a four-sided piece like this, that just had an extra side to it. Is there a 6-inch plate known in this, or a 5-inch, 6-inch plate? I have never seen one either. You could call this a triple hand grip plate. This here, this I wouldn't call a whimsy, but I would call it kind of an oddity. It was shaped different. When they, instead of swinging it, they just more or less pulled it open. And that's a cute little vase. Notice the wide mouth, and always usually the iridescence inside is very pretty. I like these vases. These have always been some of my favorites, the little squatty vases, and I actually prefer them myself to my personal collection. I would prefer these than to a swung vase. I really do enjoy these kind of vases. Not that piece, no. This was used for a few pieces. They made it for the lamp, the princess lamp. Okay, I just sold one of those that had this piece on the top of it. Okay, and it was the lamp shade was exactly this shape turned upside down. Okay, so it's, you call it the lamp shade. How's that? Dave, help me out. Ribbon panels, right? You've all seen the ribbon panels vase that bulbous at the bottom, then squeezes in and comes straight up. Here's a little different shape of that, and Dave and I were talking about this. Dave takes, as you know, takes pictures upon pictures upon pictures, and that's a great memory bank to always have those pictures around. And he looked at this, and he thought this was very unusual. We noticed that it has been played with at the top somehow, so I would assume that this has probably come from the same piece. I would assume that, and they just shaped it different. This was a blown piece. It definitely has a panel at the bottom, so who knows? But very unusual piece. I haven't seen this before. I called this interior ribs. You called it ruffled ribs. I guess you would have to call this a spittoon. Now, I don't know how you can spit into that little hole unless you went this way. But I would think they'd had a catcher on the back side to hold that from going out. Unusual piece. Dave was telling me with all his pictures, he has a picture of one of these that's not tri-cornered shaped almost identical, but has four sides on it. So it is probably a piece that they made a lot of whimsical shapes out of. Very unique. Neat piece of glass. Neat piece of glass. This piece should be mine. Eleanor got lucky on this one. Tom Ordini found this, I believe. Is that correct? Okay. And he had called me, I talked to him, and he told me about it. And I said, you know, Tom, you should save that. That's something I'd be really interested in buying for myself. But by the time I got there, it was already in Eleanor's hands and gone. But a very pretty singing bird's mug, but they put a lip on it. I think this is the type of whimsy that really trips my trigger. These oddball little shapes. They just decide, oh well, I'll just put a little lip on it, or I'll turn it upside down, or do something with it. These are really neat, and I consider them very valuable. Very valuable. Again, the green butterfly. I think I showed you this earlier, and boy, is that pretty. Look at the blue iridescence on that. We've been talking about this piece here for a little while when we were in here. This is what is known as the orange tree centerpiece bowl. I know of about 3 or 4 of them in green and a couple, 2, 3 in blue. This is the only marigold one I've ever heard of. It's owned by Winnie. And we were discussing if it was probably a whimsy or if it was made to be this way. I'm going to guess that since there's so few of them, it's probably a whimsy, and it was made from the big fruit bowl, okay? And they decided to fold it down. That may be wrong. They may intentionally have went out to make this. I was telling John and a few other people of what Frank said, that what he said was they wouldn't go out and just make a whimsy. That wasn't what they were doing. What they would do is they had a minimum order of so many, and the minimum order for them to make any money was like 100. And maybe that at making 100, all that's left when we get to our collecting time is maybe 1 or 2 of them. That's possible, but John was saying he's not sure if he believes it, and I don't know if I do for sure, but it's definitely a possibility. I asked Frank, what about the pieces that the factory people just decide to make it real quick and throw it in their lunchbox and take it home? And what his response was to me was, Jim, if you worked all day long in a glass factory, would you want to make a little piece and take it home with you? Now, John's the only one that would here. But,
One a day.
But, and that makes sense to me too, but I still have a hard time believing that if you made 100 of them, that only 1 or 2 of them are still around, as pretty as this stuff is and stuff. But, neat piece of glass. Neat piece of glass. My wife and I took our first vacation in a while, and what we did is we went out to the Renninger's flea market and went antiquing. I was my kid. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess that's true, isn't it? I walked up to a booth, and there was several pieces of Carnival glass there, and a guy had this in his hand. And he says, "How much is the white punch cup?" John?
See, that's foreign made for sure.
Right. Argentinian, I would say.
I think maybe it's more like
Sowerby?
Romaki.
Romaki? Yeah. That could be. Yep. But definitely an odd piece. Wreath of Roses. This is the little whimsy. I never know what to call this. It's got 3 points. You call it a tri-shape, I guess. Made out of the Rose Bowl. Out of the Rose Bowl shape. You two have a spittoon in this? Carl Schrader does. Carl Schrader has a spittoon shape in this. Definitely a whimsy. I would call this a whimsical piece. Definitely made from the Rose Bowl shape. Okay. All right, now I'm going to get a lesson here because I don't know what to call this. I called this once in one of my auctions and was called by about 25 people and told that I was wrong. So what do you call this? Well, I was told by these people that called me that it was a spittoon-shaped Rose Bowl, is what the correct shape should be called. Would you call it that?
I let the owner call it what it was.
Well, you're the owner, John. That's what he called it? That's right. I guess if you want it, you call it whatever you want. But that's what I guess that they told me. I had called it a spittoon. They said that it's probably a spittoon-shaped Rose Bowl, but it's definitely a whimsical piece. A lot of this pattern, which is just think it's U.S. glass. No, John, what is it? Cosmos and Cane. Cosmos and Cane. Just slipped my mind there, which is easy to do. Cosmos and Cane. A lot of their pieces are whimsical shapes. even down to their little bowls. They made a lot of different little shapes. Okay. This was owned by who? Ron Smith? Ron Smith? Okay. And as you can see, here's the same piece, made from the same mold, and they just shaped it a little different. Now, this one here, I've only seen one other. Don Moore owned one. Is this the same one that Don had?
I thought it was an auction just fairly recent.
Okay. Very unusual shape. Neat piece of glass. Real neat piece. Bruce Hill did have, I remember that. He did have a purple one of these at one time. It could be called volcano, a volcano shape. Yeah. Of the purple one. This is the file. I believe it was probably made out of the spooner. And John, I think you'll agree. Or the bottom of the sugar bowl, one of the two. The file vase, it's made this way and then they pinched it in at the top. Definitely a whimsical piece again. I've seen a few of these. I've sold a few of them. There's been a few around, but they are quite valuable. They do pretty well at our auctions. Amaryllis. We're going to get back over here in a little bit. Normally comes in a little ruffled shape or a little flared out shape. Here's a little tri-cornered shape. This also is occasionally made into a flattened out plate. Which piece was the piece that it originally come out as? I'm not sure. I would guess it probably come out as that flared out shape. And then they whimsied this or flattened it out into the plate. That would be my guess. Right, there's some flattened out as flat as a pancake. I know I sold one at your auction. I have one at your auction. Yeah, and I've seen a few more. They're around, but quite scarce and quite valuable. I'll skip the thing I did already. There's the circle scroll vase. Peacock tail. A lot of these little sauces have been whimsied into whimsical shapes. I saw a little square one recently. Here's a little tri-cornered shape. There is a peacock tail spittoon out in west somewhere, Idaho, Utah, one of those areas. I don't remember which state she's from, but there is a, I think it's an amethyst, unusual piece there. This piece definitely was made into a lot of whimsies. A lot of whimsies were formed out of this.
There's one that same shape that's got open on the edges too.
Yeah, green. Was it green? I remember that, and I think I saw that down in Texas last year. I remember seeing that too. It does have a little opal. Here's a punch cup, Northwood Grape and Cable punch cup, and they formed it into a little pin dish. I guess that's what I would call it, a pin tray or a whimsy cup, whichever you'd like to do it. It does have the Northwood signature. A lot of people put these with their dresser sets, along with the cologne bottles, the perfume, on down the line. These are around. You see them. I think they made these as a production item. I think this was something that they sold. So I'm not sure if I would call it a whimsy, but it did come out of the punch cup mold. Hobnail swirl spittoon. Extremely rare, one of just a few known. I think there's maybe 3 that I know of. This one here is definitely shaped quite a bit different, how the spittoon comes more up and around like it's going to catch the spit, okay? Where the other ones are more flattened out. You bought this at a Cooper auction, if I remember right, a few years ago. Very rare. You will see a few green ones in the, there's also the hobnail spittoons. There's also the other colors. They come in marigold, amethyst, and green. Very few of them around. More amethyst swirls than any, I would say. Yep. The green swirl, this one here is extremely rare. And just the hobnail ones seem to be a little rarer to me. Would you agree? You think so? I seem to see more amethyst hobnail swirls than any other one. I guess maybe that's just what I've experienced. Okay. What's different about this? Anybody notice? The top's different. The top, normally there's a big scallop all the way around. This one here has got a beaded scallop around the top. Very different. You see them mostly in marigold. I have sold one in amethyst, I believe it was, and I don't remember. Jan, do you remember? Wasn't too long ago. Okay, a purple one. Maybe that's the one I remember. Did you buy it at one of my auctions? But very unusual. Also, it does increase the value to these quite a bit. I kind of enjoy pieces like this. Palm Beach is a pattern that they made whimsy after whimsy after whimsy out of Palm Beach. Here's a little tri-shaped piece here. Notice the gold paint on the inside. I used to call these amethysts because when they had the gold paint on it, but I'm not sure if that's what they are. I think they're like a marigold, and then the gold paint causes it to look a little different. Other people have said that they'd call it amethyst too, but this looks more like a marigold one to me, and with gold paint on it. So, well, you own it. You call it what you want. A neat shape, tri-cornered shape. I've never seen this shape before in them, but I've seen a lot of different shapes in the Palm Beach. I don't recall seeing one ever. I don't think so. I'm going to go to the back row here. These three are all vases. You help me, Joan, since they're yours. Hold one of these up for me, will you? This one here is in what I call the amethyst. This here's white, and here's a marigold one. These are all made probably from the spooner. Would you agree to that? Okay. These are all Joan's. Joan is big into these vases, and definitely whimsy. They grabbed them and they swung them down and made a swung vase out of them. Okay, neat pieces. They do quite well at auctions. Here's a little bulbous vase I'm going to show you first. I just sold one of these at our last auction. Joan happened to own this one, but Joan come up with something that's, I think, quite different. This is basically this piece that has been swung into a vase, which makes it a very neat piece of glass. I've never, ever seen this size of the Palm Beach vase. Has anybody else ever had the opportunity to buy one of these or have to look at one? This is a really unique item, a true whimsy in my opinion, and it definitely made from this mold, same mold. There's this ugly little spittoon up here. Here's a little spittoon. I'd be scared to call it a whimsy because I've never seen the pattern before. At first when I looked at it, I thought it was a grape and cable perfume bottle formed a little different, but it's definitely not the same pattern. It's owned by Floyd and Cecil. They got it from Kelly Dixon, I guess, a few years back. You had said it sold at a Burns auction 3 years ago. A very unique piece. Has anybody ever seen? It just has a cluster of grapes and like four little leaves around it. Nothing like the grape and cable. Probably Dugan. Seems kind of like the color that Dugan would come out with of marigold. A neat piece. Probably one of a kind, I would guess. Does the Whitleys know the patterns? Floyd says he has no idea. Well, you learned a lot, didn't you? Here's a Leaf Tears tumbler in marigold. Okay? This is what this come out of. And somebody decided to make this, which, by the way, it is great. I mean, this is a great piece of glass. I shouldn't even be holding it. It's that good. They just decided to pinch it about right there and formed into that. What amazes me, whoever made this, when they pinched it, they really didn't hurt the mold at all. You know, normally it would flatten out the pattern, but it didn't. You can see every leaf, every little line in the leaf. It's got great color. Definitely a cute little lady spittoon, and would be a prize in anybody's collection. This probably maybe was an end of a day. Okay, are we down to one left? Pedal and fan little sauce. This is yours, isn't it, John? This is really a unique shape in this. I've seen these flattened out into plate with a crimped edge around. This one here has been turned up into like a deep berry bowl or I guess I'd call it a deep berry bowl. Yeah, almost turned into a rose bowl. You could argue it, I guess, if you wanted to. Very pretty iridescence. Again, a whimsical shape that you don't see very often, made from the sauce, and the iridescence is wonderful. Well, I hope you learned something. I did, just from you. I don't know as much about this glass as what most people think I do, except for I've been around it for a few years, and I enjoy it a lot. And I guess that's the most important thing about Carnival glass. You have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, if you're... Oh, yeah, I'll get to that in a little bit. If you don't enjoy the glass and you're just coming for... I guess socializing is great, but the glass is so much fun, and I hope everybody here gets involved, because it's really an enjoyable hobby. You get to meet a lot of people, and well, just look at all the people we've met here today. It's been a lot of fun. Now, John brought this in and asked, "What is it?" And well, a man who's more experienced at things like this said it right out what it was right away. John Muehlbauer said, "Well, it's an opium pipe." Now, I don't know how he knows that, but oh, okay. But I would say that's probably right. It is hollow all the way through. I did blow in it, and I felt air coming out, so it's hollow all the way through. So I would assume it's a pipe of some type. I would guess opium, I guess. John says so. Well, whatever John says, we're going to agree with. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Of course, I don't own a lot of this glass. In fact, I own two pieces up there, and the other one's going to be in one of my auctions. I'd like to thank all the people that brought the glass. It's always enjoyable to talk about other people's glass. And I hope you enjoyed it. We will have the room set up. The glass is set, but we need to set the room yet. Give Floyd and I a good 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll have it ready to show, okay? Besides that, what else do we need to know? I know nothing else. Thank you very much.